What's up, friends and family? So it is another beautiful day here in Southern California, but we're not going to stay in the car very long. I got a snake to show you, so stick around for that. But I just finished listening to this podcast where the host was talking with a dog breeder, trying to find tips and ways to improve reptile breeding. And I thought to myself, what could possibly be worse than getting snakes to be treated just like dogs? And I'll tell you what I mean by that, because a lot of times we talk about wanting snakes to be accepted as pets, and we want them to be popular, and that way it'll save wild snakes' lives, right? That's the biggest win from that. But the reality of pet ownership is that many people are nowhere near qualified to own and take care of a pet dog. That's just the way it is. And the evidence is there to support that claim. Hundreds of thousands of them are euthanized each year due to overcrowding, due to mismanagement, due to poor care, poor breeding, whatever have you. And I thought to myself, what a terrible comparison between reptile breeding and dog breeding. And what a terrible industry to look up to, if I'm being real, because we failed our dogs, right? Everyone here has said we don't deserve dogs, and we know it because everyone's seen a dog get left behind. And I know this is going to go to a lot of places. One thing that I did leave out in the upcoming video is there's a lot of reptile abandonment, and it's not, they don't have the resources that dogs get. So I did fail to encompass that amount. And you'll see what I mean. Basically, if someone abandons a dog, you can call animal control and go pick it up. If someone abandons an iguana, a lot of times animal control says, well, if you can catch it, bring it in and we'll take care of it. But a lot of those animals just perish, or they're released into a wild habitat where they destroy, the ecosystem. But feral dogs can definitely cause wildlife issues. Just look at those Australasia countries down there too. So look at dingoes. I don't know. Come check it out with me. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about Ulmo, my rescue ball python, and kind of give you my initial thoughts on dog breeding and reptile breeding and how they relate to one another. And I want to do a lot more involved videos on this topic as well, because I think it's something that gets conflated way too often. And comparing reptile breeding and dog breeding is foolish. And I wanted to just get this started and get this introduction out there and share with you guys some of my thoughts and really check with you. Tell me what you think about it. Love to hear you sound off in the comments. If you think I'm crazy, tell me. If you think I'm a jerk, tell me. I think I'm right, but that's how I start most of my thoughts. So I don't know. Come along with me and let me know. So the first one I'm going to show you, this is Ulmo. For those of you who know where the name Ulmo comes from, let me know. He's the Lord of Waters, so I found it fitting because he actually is a rescue ball python. Maybe he is. You tell me. So tell me if you think this qualifies. This is an animal that came from Los Angeles Animal Shelters, and so from LA Animal Services, and he came from the North Central Shelter. He was found wandering about an apartment complex in downtown LA. He was going between toilets, so he was in and out of the plumbing, and so that's how he got his name. They called him Drano at the shelter. But this is an animal that comes from the animal shelter. If you want a snake, if you want to adopt a snake, LA Animal Services does it for $17. He's a possible lesser and cinnamon morph. I'm not sure if anyone has any good guesses or good IDs. Let me know down in the comments. But as you can see, he's very common, and he's actually one of my favorite snakes. I didn't think I'd get into ball pythons. And here we go. And if I bred any of my rescue snakes, he's probably the one that would be healthy enough to do it, and worth doing. He has some genes that you could pass on and have a dedicated project. I have absolutely no interest in getting into ball python breeding though. So for me, he's just a rescue, but or I should say just a pet. And again, as you can see, I'm fast and loose with the term too. But I wanted to talk about a few things since I did get him from an animal shelter.
I had a few videos where I really rant, and I don't want to turn this into one of those and really get too off topic, but I thought it was worth mentioning. I'm also going to do another video about why I won't breed snakes commercially, but again, that's for another topic. In the past, I've certainly gone into arguments about dog breeding on Facebook, social media, YouTube, all over the place, and inevitably the argument turns into, you accept reptile breeding. What's the difference between dog breeding and reptile breeding? And frankly, that's on paper, that's a good and fair question, right? And without context, it's hard to justify one while simply condemning the other. However, the reality is very different than just this ideal. And the reality is there's anywhere between 6 and 8 million dogs currently without a home, homeless dogs. Anywhere between 250 and 400,000 of those dogs are euthanized annually. So conservatively, let's say 300,000 dogs are euthanized annually. That is not the case with reptiles. It's not even close. He's so curious, it's going away. What? It's not even close to the case with reptiles. So number one, the supply and demand are just not there. The supply for dogs is through the roof, and the supply for reptiles is being met mostly by the demand. We see a lot of instances where they're treated badly or poorly and kind of seen as thrown away pets, and that needs to change for sure. But that's not leading to the number of deaths that we see anywhere near it with dogs. So yes, your local reptile rescue, if you go to somewhere else besides a shelter, we'll have a number of bearded dragons, normal morph ball pythons, and a handful of reptiles that should really have never gotten into pet owners' hands in the first places. We're talking like your giant monitors and giant snakes, things that make really difficult pets and that a lot of people rehome due to the size. And that's okay. Reptile rescues are full, but the kill shelters, they're not full of these animals. They get them in a couple a month maximum, and they usually get adopted out to interested parties and rehabilitators, and educational programs love to pick up rescue reptiles because they're not part of a breeding program, because they don't have confirmed morphs or confirmed sexes in a lot of cases. I compare a lot of those reptile rescues to like your breed specific dog rescues. So like your greyhound rescues that only takes in retired racers. They're not going to get killed. They're not euthanizing those animals. They're keeping them and adopting them out to people and only taking in as much as they can handle. That's a lot like reptile rescues. They don't clear out space by euthanizing them. Municipal shelters do. That's how they get rid of dogs and cats. For new ones that are constantly coming in, it's only one way to get rid of them if they're not getting adopted, and that's through euthanasia. So they do not have, we do not have an abandoned reptile epidemic in this country the way we have an abandoned dog and cat epidemic in this country. So if that's your argument as to why I accept reptile breeders but not dog breeders, that's weak. It's not even close. The common denominator is always people. People suck. Simply put, there's always going to be backyard breeders, and there's always going to be a supply of animals coming in. There is a myth that I say of the ethical dog breeder, especially if you're just breeding for pets. I understand there's a need for certain working breeds, and I'll always support that. I think registered breeds are fine. Go through the kennel registry, all good. You know what I mean? Dogs have a purpose. In many cases, they're bred for certain things. You're not going to find a good shepherd dog in the shelter. You might, but a lot of those animals are bred. You got your English border collies and Australian cattle dogs or various animals are bred for that purpose. And look, I get that. I'm not here to rag on that. And same thing if you're a pet owner that has a pure, I'm not here to shame you, okay? You do what you do what you choose. I just want to present my perspective and an alternative for folks who haven't decided yet on what pets to get. So, like I said, this doesn't say there isn't a need for all dog breeders. Service animals as well have a big responsibility. Seeing eye dogs, service dogs, signal dogs, a lot of these things need to come from specific breeds, and lineage really matters. You can't just train any dog out of the shelter to to do these jobs. But what I suggest before you consider breeding a snake or buying a snake from somebody that's breeding it, if you have the choice to adopt, ask yourself a certain question. What level of exploitation are you comfortable with? I've talked about exploitation in the past, and basically what I do is animal exploitation, right? I breed my rainbow boas, I make content with animals online. That's exploitation. There's no other way to put it. You just got to ask yourself what level you're comfortable with. And similarly, the other question I ask is, am I contributing to a problem? So like, again, I don't want to come down on people who bought a pure breed dog. I'm not going to condemn them. It's perfectly legal and we have the freedom to choose our own happiness, right? But I just hope you consider what level of exploitation you're comfortable with before breeding your animals and before spending a lot of money on an animal. You can absolutely find a great dog at a shelter and a great cat at a shelter, and in almost case you can find a great snake at a shelter. But if you have specific breeding plans, you may not want to adopt. You may want to consider going straight to a breeder. Go to sites like Morph Market, find the breeder direct on social media and contact them and message them and get their price list directly or something along that. That's understandable. I really find the comparison between dog breeding and snake breeding obnoxious and ignorant. So I wanted to show you what the difference is and why you'd understand. So don't come at me if you want to target me in the comments and tell me that you know somebody who's an ethical, or you are an ethical dog breeder. I'm just gonna roll my eyes because frankly, there's, like I said, there's 450,000 dogs getting euthanized this year in the shelters. So whichever dogs you breed, please let me know which ones in the shelter are worth euthanizing, so that someone can have your pet instead of one of the dogs that is currently taking up space in a municipal shelter, because that's the reality of it. So we've created this problem as humans, and it's unfair to a lot of folks in terms of what we want and what we get. And look, I get it. Again, not to shame purebred dog owners, but we're at a point where if you have a choice to adopt or buy something that was bred simply for the purpose of increasing the market, consider adoption.